You know, recently, I had a very dear friend of mine tell me that they felt like I had lost my way. They felt like I had lost my fandom. And I brushed it off, and I laughed it off, and I said, you're ridiculous, you're crazy, you're this, you're that. But in the after hours of that conversation, when it was nothing but me, the lamppost, in the darkness, I realized that maybe my friend had a point. That maybe I needed to go back, and I needed to watch the tapes that made me a fan of wrestling as a kid, and I needed to recapture that fire. But not just fandom for the industry, fandom for a particular man who is no longer with us in the business sense, but he may soon return. And I think you all know by now who I am talking about. The guru of greatness, the shaman of sexy, the ambassador of abdominals, John Morrison. Now, I have done countless John Morrison commentaries. I have said everything that could possibly be said, and then some. I even went to the point of doing an over hour-long tribute to the man's career, accomplishments, and accolades. So when coming to the mound again, bat firmly in hand, eyes on the prize, a thought struck me. I would not do it alone. So as my brain racked the names that I could recruit to properly communicate, to properly articulate this situation of a potential John Morrison return, a second coming, if you will, my thought came to one man, a man who I had bored many confidences pertaining to John Morrison with, whether it be the ludicrous dream of him winning a Royal Rumble, or him having a World Heavyweight Championship win at a WrestleMania. I also shared with this man many of fond conversations regarding Daniel Bryan, and I told him, never let your fandom die, for it is one of the richest prizes we can bear as professional wrestling fans. That man, without any further ado, you're in his world, and be grateful for it, Dalyxman.
Ladies and gentlemen, your boy, Dalyxman, for a rare occasion, is going to play backseat to this man, the Iron Man's video. This is going to be a pure fandom video about a guy named John Morrison. And I feel like me getting in the way of it would be wrong. I'm just going to be here to emphasize and to help drive home the fandom and the passion that John is getting ready to give you guys in this video.
What is John Morrison? A fan would ask. Some would say that lower mid-card wrestler, doomed to be in that spot forever. Others would say a flea-bitten spot monkey, whose only talent is leaving the air. Or my personal favorite, a man on a leash, whipped by his girlfriend, not knowing any better choices to make. And because of that, he never saw the mountaintop known as immortality and greatness. But see, when I think of John Morrison, none of these things come to mind. When I think of John Morrison, I think of inspiration. I think of courage. I think of talent. I think of ability. But solemnly so, I think of a man who never got his. I think of a man who not only never got his, but faded away. As the saying goes, it's better to burn out than to fade away, and unfortunately John Morrison did the latter. But not by his own hand, by the hand of the man that everybody said was his better, The Miz. And I'm going to level with you, Alex. It sickens me to this day. I have no problem with The Miz personally, but it does sicken me to know that The Miz won a WWE Championship before John Morrison, because we were always saying, Morrison is the Michaels, Miz is the Jannetty, and for Miz to come back and shove it down my throat. Well, I watched Morrison in his final hours revel in his supposed mediocrity. Really wasn't the lasting image that I wanted. I mean, when you think of The Miz and John Morrison, what do you think of, Alex?
It's a mindfuck, honestly, because again, when Miz was the one that won that championship, is, again, look at it from history perspective. When Morrison was in the tag team with Eminem, we was all saying, this guy has the it factor. When he was in the feud with Jeff Hardy for the IC championship, we was all still saying it. This guy has the it factor. When he was in the feud with CM Punk for the ECW championship, and he became John Morrison, transforming from Johnny Nitro, we were all saying he has the it factor. So of course when it came to The Miz and John Morrison, that tag team, and they was both launched into their singles career, we was all saying, oh, this guy is gonna be the top of the bracket. And unfortunately, things didn't turn out that way. It just flipped on us, and next thing we know, Miz is holding the WWE Championship, and Morrison is floundering in the mid-cards. And it's a mindfuck, man. And it's really, really hard to really grasp how that came about. Even I really can't put my finger on that.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I am going to tell you right now, do not fret. This video is not rekindling intimacy with the past. It is embracing an unknown future, an unknown that me and Dalyxman here hope to create. For you see, there's only one thing that I think about when the image of John Morrison's face hitting the WWE logo on the stage and then getting skull-crushing finale'd on the steel. There's only one thing I think about. There's only one thing I hear. And it wasn't the silence of the audience as he was being carried away on the stretcher. It wasn't the Miz promo that was cut afterwards. It's the ticking of a clock. And if you strain your ear real close with me, you can hear it too. Tick-tock. 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 Because, see, the lesson is that time waits for no man. And Miz will be stretching his meager hands out, just praying that he catches a few extra grains of sand for his hourglass, but he will find that his time, too, has run out. But that will be then. This is now. And what I say right now is that if the rumors are true, there are a few things I want. Now, this is where Dalyxman is going to become more involved. I know he wants to play sidekick, but here's the thing about Dalyxman. He is one of the most passionate fans I have the honor of not only knowing, but the privilege of calling a friend and the family that I pick. So I'm going to lay down these ideas to Dalyxman, and he's going to tell me what he thinks, and whether he agrees or disagrees, we will wait and see. All right, first and foremost, Alex, the one thing I want for John Morrison if he comes back, return as a face to solely feud with The Miz. Once that feud is done, heel turn. What do you think about Morrison going back to being a heel?
It's a possibility, bro. The thing about that is, who would he turn heel against? That's what I'm curious about.
Good question. See, it almost kind of makes me wish Evan Bourne was still in the company, because here's my thing I want to stress to everybody. Yes, I am a mark, and I want that world title bad, specifically the World Heavyweight Championship. See, it's so weird for me and my brother Preston, who is Team Rey Mysterio, because he wants the WWE title, I want the World Heavyweight title. So then together, we can rule over the entire WWE. The thing is, Alex, the point I was making was, I know fellow horseman Eon says, man, you're still aspiring for Morrison to, win that mid-card title if he comes back. The point is, the way they wrote John Morrison off, I know how good he is, you know how good he is, the horsemen know how good he is, despite maybe varying opinions on where exactly he belongs on the card. But the idea is, when you're booked a certain way, there needs to be continuity on that path. And he was losing bad. One of the last wins he got was against a very prestigious United States champion in Dolph Ziggler, but he lost the title match on pay-per-view in Madison Square Garden. Great matchup, but he lost. And then getting written off the way he did. Yes, I want a triumphant comeback, but it's going to need to be an arduous one. It's going to be one where he does the climb all over again. Because, let's be honest, for him to go feud with The Miz, come out victorious in the feud, and then go to the world title, that's unrealistic, even for me. And I want everybody to understand that. Yes, I'm the Morrison Mark from hell, but I am realistic. Sometimes I can just be like, oh, Royal Rumble winner that, but that's merely speculation and fantasy. It's having a good time. Here, I know he needs to be built back up.
Well, John, I have a suggestion for you. Let me propose to you an idea. Tell me something. What does Austin, Eddie Guerrero, Shawn Michaels, Rock, What do all these top superstars have in common exactly?
It's not the Rumble, because Eddie never won the Rumble.
Mm-mm. It has something to do with their characters.
Characters. Damn. No, we're not talking about face or heel turns, are we?
Want me to just come out and say it?
Definitely come out and say it, otherwise we'll be here forever.
Yeah. What made these characters so special, guys, is the fact that they blurred the lines. There was no babyface, there was no heel. And I think that's because of their realism, and whatever they did, it made fans get behind them even more. Here's my thing, John. Why not just give John Morrison an edge and blur the lines? Why does he have to be a heel? Why does he have to be a face? Why can't he just be somebody that walks that line between?
That's very true, or even better yet, why not just be the real John Hennigan? Why not just be himself? Because I heard that when he was heel, that was a greater extension of his personality than his face run. Now, that may be telling about some things. Maybe in real life he is kind of a dick, in which case I find that hilarious. But, you know, it does say a lot. I mean, here's my thing, Alex. Despite how bad it was, I do see face potential in John Morrison, but there's a difference between potential and actual success. I saw success with heel John Morrison. Hell, he was a great ECW champion. I only saw a glimmer of success with face Morrison, that being the program with Sheamus, which was phenomenal and one of the best of his career, in my humble opinion.
Yes.
But I saw more potential on the heel side. To me, if he turns heel, there are only two problems with that. And one of them does get to my next point. One is that we really are very heel heavy right now. In fact, we got a very big heel in Brock Lesnar returning to the company.
Yeah.
So that doesn't give him a lot of breathing room. Second problem, if it was to really flourish, he would need to go to SmackDown, where I want him to be. Because here's the thing. I've told Preston this. I know I've told you this. I've told a lot of my wrestling fan friends this. One of my biggest disappointments as a John Morrison fan was the draft where he went to Raw. Now, granted, the latter half of his Raw run I thoroughly enjoyed. Again, feud with Sheamus, Falls Count Anywhere match with Miz, all that stuff. Phenomenal. But when he left SmackDown, he left a white-hot sensation on the cusp of the world title. In fact, Alex, his last victory on the SmackDown brand was against Jack Swagger, who at the time was the world champion.
Yeah, that's true.
He was getting great reactions. He had his first chamber performance under the SmackDown flag, where he had a great back and forth with The Undertaker. That's, oh my God, where he's going for the snake eyes and then Morrison hits the flying chuck. I mean, I marked so hard even seeing that today. Just phenomenal. Beat CM Punk twice when he was world champion, feuding with Jeff Hardy at the time. Had a great match with Jeff Hardy, all on SmackDown. So he was being groomed for something. Gets drafted to Raw, and one of the first things he does is have a feud with Ted DiBiase, which would have been fine, except the fact that Ted DiBiase really wasn't all that credible in his own right, going through the shtick with Maurice. So it was really kind of a tough time, and then he was on this losing streak, and I'm thinking, come on, man. You got to get it together. And then I'll never forget when the silver lining came in being the feud with Sheamus, how I felt about it at first, because Sheamus had the match with Santino, and then Morrison comes out all of a sudden to a nice reaction to my surprise. It was good to see how over he was getting with the crowd, particularly the females, I guess, because he had that look. And he helped Santino beat Sheamus. So in one portion of my mind, I'm thinking, yes, feud with Sheamus, because regardless of what we felt about Sheamus at the time, Alex, he did come off of, world title victories and feuding with top-level guys. So I'm thinking some of that effect is going to rub off on Morrison. The other half of my brain, though, is horrified, because I'm thinking to myself, holy crap, I'm in a feud with Sheamus, but a byproduct of that is being in a feud with Santino. And as I slowly, started to load the gun and cock it into my mouth, I realized that there was still hope, and I pulled the gun out and I said, let's just give it time. So then we would see in the preceding weeks, Morrison would do the guerrilla tactics, maybe kicking Sheamus here or attacking him there, and their matches were just phenomenal. Their Survivor Series match, where I fully expected Sheamus to go over, you cannot imagine my shock when Morrison won after that knee strike that he does, square to the face, and he pinned Sheamus. I lost my shit, because I'm thinking, no way. Because they had booked Sheamus, if you remember, Alex, as just this force. I mean, if you could beat Sheamus, it's not like it was, you were the greatest superstar ever, but you really did accomplish something, because they booked him as just so damn dominant. Even John Cena had a tough time getting a hold of him. Hell, John Cena lost one of his WWE titles to Sheamus, in that infamous tables match. So, Morrison gets the win at Survivor Series. Then we have the King of the Ring tournament, which was great that night because Morrison beat a then dashing Cody Rhodes, Alberto Del Rio, thanks to Rey Mysterio, which that is always going to hold a special place for me. And then we get to the match with Sheamus, who only had 2 matches, and for the life of me, I can't remember who he faced that night, but his bout with Morrison was fantastic, and Sheamus ultimately did get the win. And really, that match really showed me one of the things that I love about John Morrison the best. He may not have the ring psychology, as Ashton likes to say, and I will concede to that, and he may not have all these other attributes, but what I think makes him so damn good is the same thing that makes Dolph Ziggler so damn good. He is a great seller, and he knows how to take bumps. Because I'm telling you, the way he sells certain injuries and certain pains, you can really rally behind him. And the King of the Ring match, he was selling his arm, because Sheamus was working it over the entire time. And towards the end, it came back to bite him because he goes for Starship Pain. Sheamus gets the knees up, bam on Morrison's arm, bro kick to the face, and then the high cross for the win, which was painful to watch. And then finally we get to the ladder match, and Alex, for me, I look at this ladder match. I really thought it was going to be a turning point in the career of John Morrison because it was the number 1 contendership for the WWE title. These two had a legitimate program that actually had time, that at least always got 1 segment per Raw, so it always got TV time, and then it culminates into this. And seeing Morrison win and sit atop the ladder with the contract in hand, I cried. I just cried hard. I'm thinking, oh my God, we're finally here. And see, here's the thing I don't really mention to people, which is where I kind of want you to chime in now, because I'm sure you'll find this interesting. While the Falls Count Anywhere match between them was exceptional, the build-up, because we all know that's what it's about, right, Alex? The bill. I found it to be very lackluster. I'll give you an example. There was a 6-man tag main event, the Raw after the TLC, and it was Miz, Alex Riley, and Sheamus against Jerry the King Lawler, Randy Orton, and John Morrison. The end sees Jerry Lawler pin the Miz after an RKO from Orton, no John Morrison in sight. And I didn't like that. I'm thinking, why can't we send a message? Because I knew Morrison wasn't going to win. So I'm like, why can't you at least send a message and have Morrison pin Miz in this tag match? And just be like, maybe he can beat him when the big time comes. Then I think it was the week after, faced Alex Riley to determine the stipulation. Of course, that's how Falls Count Anywhere came to be. That same night, Miz faced Jerry Lawler again, and Morrison did have interference. He nailed a knee strike to the face, which allowed Jerry Lawler to get the count out. But that was it. And I'm thinking, I didn't... First of all, I was shocked that it didn't make the Royal Rumble pay-per-view, because I thought that was going to be our Royal Rumble title match. Because I noticed how that's kind of the pay-per-view where they give those guys that are upper/lower on the card, kind of in a weird place, those title matches, to see how they do. No, that they put it on the Raw, but the first contest of 2011, though, that's where it has merit. I just think, knowing the history between these two, I would have liked more build in their title match. I mean, do you remember any of it, or, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I remember it, but I'm going to put it to you like this, dude. I think John Morrison was a victim of circumstance, because that was around the time they was building a feud between Michael Cole and Jerry the King Lawler. And let's not forget, Michael Cole was like the cheerleader for The Miz, so they was going to launch this feud off of the world champion. And, I guess WWE felt like adding John Morrison would kind of convolute it. So they decided to keep Miz relevant so he can do his thing with Randy Orton that was at the Royal Rumble. And that was around the time when WWE was still relying on Randy Orton, on John Cena, and they was really intent on getting Michael Cole over as a heel character. Right. And, John Morrison, for some particular reason, got overlooked. And it wasn't just John Morrison. There was a lot of stuff going on around that time that I felt could have really been pay-per-view worthy. Like a feud between Melina, his girlfriend, and Natalya for the Divas Championship that they just put, I think, was it on the same show, or was it the Raw before the Royal Rumble?
It may have been the Raw before the Rumble.
And it's like, all these matches you're giving away on free TV. I felt like they could have really done something with John Morrison and The Miz. And, you know, with the history that they have, they could have really made a feud out of that for the Royal Rumble, and we both know he wasn't going to win. But they could have had a great match that they could have really built up for at the Royal Rumble that could have launched both of them. It would have done wonders for Morrison and wonders for The Miz. But that was around the time WWE was still stuck in their old ways, still kind of trying to get rid of that stigma from 2010. Is, you know, a victim of circumstance, John. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely. You know, I think with how great their match did come off on television, being Falls Count Anywhere, I mean, imagine getting that on a Royal Rumble pay-per-view with maybe 10 extra minutes because it is pay-per-view, or even 5. Hell, you know. So I really do feel like they missed an opportunity there with both guys. I mean, because remember, and I will give him credit, this was really the only time I was ever really invested in The Miz, because he was really proving to me that he could be a great world champion. So, you know, to me, I think you really missed the boat on both of these guys. Instead of the Rumble, we get Miz versus Randy Orton again, and Morrison had, while he had an incredible save, he really didn't make it that long. He was number 9, and he got eliminated by a gang-up of the New Nexus.
Right, that was about that Spider-Man stunt he did at the Royal Rumble. Yeah, that was sick.
That was sick, and my thing is, I mean, again, I didn't expect him to win, and maybe it would have even been too unrealistic for me to expect him to come in the Final 4, but with the kind of turnaround he was making, I mean, that's honestly where I expected him. Maybe not necessarily a winner, but at least even the Final 8, or something like that. I did not expect him to get eliminated as soon as he did, which was very disappointing. Some people were actually thinking he was going to win the Rumble, so if I thought I was unrealistic, hot damn, at least I wasn't alone.
Especially after that stunt he did. I mean, think about that. Jumping from the ring apron to the barricade. Walking across the barricade. Then jumping from the barricade to the freaking steps. And then get back into the ring. One little slip up could have screwed that entire thing up. And they kind of relate that to what just recently happened at the Royal Rumble with Kofi Kingston. And both of them are very similar, but to me, and me personally, John, Morrison's stunt still stands over that one, because, not trying to demean Kofi's stunt at all, I think Kofi's stunt was just as crazy, and again, if it would have been fucked up, it could have been disastrous. But it takes very particular precision with what Morrison did. All that parkour offense, man, it's nothing to really overlook. You know what I'm saying, John? It was a crazy stunt, and for WWE to see that and not really capitalize, I guess you could say they did, because they put him in the Elimination Chamber, but you really had something there with John Morrison, and what he showed you should have been like, okay, we got to showcase this boy a lot more than we are right now.
I even thought that a great creative technique, because they always did with Goldberg's entrance, they showed him actually making his way to the gorilla position. I always thought that it would have been cool if you saw, or if you made the audience see, rather, Morrison doing parkour all the way to the gorilla position, you know, or at least part way before, you know, the music hit. And, you know, they would do that a couple times. Like, they would show him doing these, like, parkour push-ups, or this whole, like, regiment running around before his Falls Count Anywhere match with Sheamus, which was also epic. So, you know, even little creative things like that. Now, here's my biggest gripe. You talked about the Chamber, which, personally, his Raw Chamber performance is my favorite. I love SmackDown because of the back and forth he had with The Undertaker and Chris Jericho towards the end, coming in third. But the Raw Chamber was so epic because of 2 reasons. One, because, actually make that 3. One, because I really thought Morrison was developing more aggression, which Jim Ross was telling him he desperately needed. Because I remember a tag match he had with R-Truth after he got maced in the eyes by CM Punk, like a week after, and he faced Michael McGillicuddy and David Otunga. And Morrison comes in, and he's blinded, and he actually does this like MMA-looking takedown to McGillicuddy at one point, and he's just punching the shit out of him, and he's kicking him in the midsection and all that stuff. And then finally, like, before he finishes him off, he's like, I hope you're watching, Punk! And then nails a knee to the face and gets the pin. And I'm like, yeah! Like, I'm marking like a bitch. I'm thinking, like, yes! Yes! And I'm thinking, you know, we're finally making that turnaround, because I think even Shawn Michaels said that he feels like John Morrison needs that street credibility. He looks too much, I guess, like that pretty boy rocker or whatever, and he needs that edge. And I'm thinking, okay, we finally found your edge. You know, you're angry. Focus on that anger. His Elimination Chamber performance, reason number 2, clearly his performance in general. the dive off the chamber, literally off the chamber, the resilience, just the fight. Coming in third again with the likes of CM Punk and John Cena, which I think really does say something else.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And I think third for me, which is going to be another little, I guess, emotional fandom tirade, I felt so defeated that night. Again, I guess I should have known better, but Alex, you know as well as I do. Fandom is one of the most beautiful things in the world, but it does come at a price. You know, you let your...
Who you think you're talking to? Come on now. I understand, man. I really do. And trust me, dude, I don't think you're the only person that felt like, and you've said this many times before, you said Morrison should have won that match. Honestly, man, you're not the only person that feels that way. I feel that way. Many other people felt that way. And that was
the third prize. That was the third prize, because I came home that night, and I saw review after review after review. It was crazy. One person was saying, what the hell does Morrison have to do to get that title run? Another person was saying, Morrison got robbed. In fact, countless comments were saying Morrison got robbed. And to know that Morrison was finally validated by the people who love to feast on him most, that was one of the only times I said, keep your world titles. I've made it in a completely different regard. That's why I think it was such a slap in the face to see what he did at WrestleMania. I don't understand, Alex, how you go from Falls Count Anywhere match to the WWE title to Elimination Chamber for number one contendership for said world title to teaming with Snooki and Trish Stratus against Dolph Ziggler and Lay Cool. Did I fall asleep for like 10 minutes and then wake up to a totally different product? I don't understand. Yeah,
I don't know how to explain it.
Notice for the first time in this commentary, folks, me and Alex are at a loss for words, because what words could properly articulate bullshit?
Really, and I mean, I'll say it like this. Before, my mentality was, okay, Snooki, she's gonna bring a lot of eyes. People are gonna watch the match. All right, it's good exposure for John Morrison and Dolph Ziggler. But then I saw the match. How long did it go? It didn't even go a minute. It barely went a minute.
Yeah, the only interaction Morrison and Dolph Ziggler had, who should have had a one-on-one match at WrestleMania, because of what they did at Survivor Series in 2011 was any indication of what they could do one-on-one. Double Dirk 2000, you missed out. Morrison does a Starship Pain off the rope to the outside to Ziggler, which was amazing. And, of course, Ziggler is a beast. And Snooki does something, I don't know, quick attack, and she gets the pin, and goes back in her Pokeball and just dies, and I don't know. But then we get to interesting territory for me. We get to Extreme Rules, and it's funny because I fully expected, actually I shouldn't say that, I expected Morrison to at least kind of get back on track. They do the gauntlet, Truth and Cena get the title shot against The Miz, and I'm thinking, you gotta be kidding me. R-Truth. And Morrison was in that gauntlet, and he got eliminated by R-Truth. I'm thinking, the guy who jobs to everyone, the guy who I could probably take a shit, Vince McMahon would look at and say, Truth, you're jobbing to this, got a title shot over John Morrison. Well, if that isn't the definition of doghouse, then please tell me what it is, because I am lost.
Luckily, it didn't turn out that way. Thank God.
It didn't. It was a very interesting time for me, because I know me and Preston, I think, were really getting tight at the time, and I was talking to him on Skype, and he didn't know what to think of it. I think, honestly, like me, he found it to be kind of funny. I think we said to each other at one point, how does it feel knowing that our jobber is getting a WWE title match over John Morrison? And then just part of me is thinking to myself, now, if only I could just hurt someone. But, Truth comes out, talks about how he'll be a fighting champion after winning Extreme Rules. Morrison comes out, and I'm not going to lie, the promo was pretty bad and kind of misleading, because, it was Morrison who goads Truth into giving up his title opportunity. I expected Morrison to turn heel, which would have been awesome. Instead, fate didn't have that in mind. Morrison wins, so he got the title opportunity, which, again, was another moment I cried. I'm a man, but my God, I have so many fangirl moments, it's ridiculous. And R-Truth turns heel and blows smoke on John Morrison. Yeah, a great segment, though. Great segment. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think the only thing that left a bad taste in my mouth was that I knew this feud was once again going to override any hopes I had of, calling John Morrison WWE champion. So then fast forward, cage match was fabulous, injury, comeback, feud with Truth, losing streak, which was absolutely painful to endure. Win over Dolph Ziggler. I'm elated. United States Championship match at Survivor Series, Madison Square Garden. We ousted Ryder. The match was amazing. In fact, I would say, fandom aside, it was one of the better matches on the card. I'd say that. That and CM Punk and Del Rio were the two best matches. I really didn't care for the tag main event, which Truth was a part of, so Truth can go suck at that one. And, here we are. Gets demolished by The Miz. My point being, when you look at the run, it had a lot of great in it towards the latter half, for the most part. You cut everything until post-Extreme Rules, and you get something really good. But SmackDown, man, again, beating CM Punk twice as world champion, facing Jeff Hardy in a world title match, Elimination Chamber, facing guys like Chris Jericho, Shelton Benjamin. Even though Shelton Benjamin wasn't a top-tier talent, they were great matches. If he was to do it, especially with how this roster is looking, he needs to go back to SmackDown. And I think he could maybe even be a big babyface there. Maybe it's all in the environment. Hell, Daniel Bryan's such a great heel that imagine those two feuding. Good God.
Holy crap. Especially if he becomes the babyface I want him to be. A feud like that between him and Daniel Bryan, holy shit, would be something awesome. I would love to see that, And honestly, I agree with you. I think SmackDown is possibly the best place for him to be right now. Raw is so star-packed right now. He'll lose himself in the shuffle. I think SmackDown is the best place to be. I agree with you on that one. But if you don't mind, John, I do want to assess that last portion of his career before he left on, recovery of the injury. And,
absolutely. Take it away, Alex.
And, one of the things that people want to talk about is him snubbing Trish Stratus, and I do want to bring this up when he disrespected one of the best divas in wrestling history, and WWE is highly favoring of Trish Stratus, and they was all like, you disrespectful bastard, and we can see, you guys know that he suffered from that. I think it's kind of obvious that WWE did not like that. I think it was told by his losing streak, because it's kind of freaking ridiculous to me that this man can perform on the level that he can, yet WWE doesn't showcase him to that fullest potential. You know what I'm saying? You look at John Morrison, he has the look, he has the ability to put on really good matches. He might not have the mic skills that hadn't stopped him before. You know what I'm saying? He had all this criteria, all these credentials to him that would at least make him an upper card main eventer. But after he came back from that injury, he was just jolly to everybody. Lost to Wade Barrett, lost to R-Truth, lost to numerous other people, just left and right.
He even lost to Drew McIntyre once on Superstars, which is very telling, because McIntyre himself at the time was in the doghouse.
Thank you very much. And see, that's my point. I do feel like, and usually, this is what I think happened. Because John Morrison was injured at the time, he couldn't perform on the level where WWE would say, okay, you know what, he snubbed Trish Stratus, but he's doing such a great job inside that ring, and he's drawing a lot of eyes and wowing a lot of people, that they couldn't do nothing about it. But because of John Morrison being, injured, he couldn't work at the level that he was before, and it caused WWE to go, you know what, he's not working as good anyway, so I showcase him. It kind of gave them an excuse, in my view, to, kind of showcase him the way they did and have him job out like that. And the fact that John Morrison stuck with it.
He paid the due.
Yeah, he paid the due.
He paid the due. And here's my thing, Alex, and I don't want to come off as entitled or as a prick, but again, with Morrison, I even said when he left, there will never be another John Morrison. He came in, filled the void of Chris Benoit after his tragic death, and that was the vein of my fandom. And here's the thing, I've never absolved John Morrison from anything. When he's guilty of something, he is guilty. And if he did snub Trish Stratus, which I always say did, because we weren't there, we'll never know for ourselves, but let's just assume that he did, then yes, I can understand repercussions. And because he wasn't a draw, of course he's going to face them more severely than a John Cena would or a Randy Orton would if they were in his spot. Hell, Randy Orton made some very disrespectful slurs towards Kelly. You didn't see him lose anything because of it. Clearly shows the disparities in power in WWE. Just saying. But, that being said, I understand. It's a rite of passage. You're lower on the card. You pay heavier dues. I get that. My thing is, I guess, and what's always perturbed me about this is that, people have always kind of painted John Morrison as Satan because of it. Like, how dare you disrespect such a legend like Trish Stratus? And look, I love Trish. She was my favorite diva growing up as a kid. I get it. But he wasn't refusing to do jobs like a Hogan to a Kurt Hennig or a this guy or that guy. He wasn't ever showing up to work high, drunk, whatever. He's only had one wellness policy violation, and I do believe that was anabolic steroids. And Alex, that was all the way back in 2007. He's kept himself clean for like 4 years since, going into 5.
Right.
Especially with his workout regimen now. And that was a big scandal, too, that, may I remind you, Randy Orton was also a part of. Again, just saying. He jobbed to everyone. And he looked damn good doing it. I mean, hell, he put up a good fight, and he made the opponent look good in the process. Had great matches with Mark Henry, where I actually thought he was going to beat Henry on at least 1 or 2 occasions after he had Starship Pain, but Henry was such a force at the time, demolished Morrison in the end. So, he even said in an interview that if he wanted to go back to WWE, he left on great terms, and I think that is because, Alex, he did pay the due.
Right.
I guarantee you, and maybe it's just the faith I have, maybe it's just the fandom, but I honestly believe that if they said, John, you need to job to Hornswoggle, we're turning him heel, he would have done it. I just think for him, when he says that it got boring, it started to feel like work, he wanted to take time off, heal his injuries, which he was competing while still not fully recovered, and having great matches. That automatically makes me love him even more than I already did.
Thank you very much.
Everyone.
The attitude of John Morrison is what really grabs me about this guy. Like I said before, there have been so many people to come into WWE and leave going, they treated me like shit, they misused me, they don't know good talent when they see one. Morrison, unlike people like Gail Kim, didn't burn his bridge.
Put that bitch in her place.
And I love Gail Kim, but really, that was not the best.
And to give even more credit to John Morrison, even though I know he probably won't get it, to some people who watch this video, I'm hoping a majority of your commenters see things our way, or at least have a different perspective to offer that's also somewhat positive. He even said in an interview he did with a John Morrison fan site, StarshipPain.com, that if you go back to WWE, what's the one thing you need to improve on? And he said, quote, Jomo needs to cut promos. Even he knows where he lacks. Come on now. He's taking improv classes now. It's called Body Slammed Comedy. And he does these improv shows. And he's been doing commercials. He recently did an endorsement with Jessica Alba. Lucky bastard. He's working on it. He's working on it, Alex. And that's why I love him. The guy comes back, not fully healed, tears the house down. Even Preston couldn't believe. Like, I told him, because one of his first matches back was against Christian on SmackDown. And I said, dude, you need to see this. Morrison hasn't lost a step. And he came back to me and he's like, dude, that's awesome. And those are the kinds of guys me and Preston always gravitated towards. That's why one of the reasons why I think, we're so close, because we like guys who, doesn't matter. You could probably blow Rey Mysterio's kneecap out in full. He'll still go out in that ring and have a better match than 99% of the guys on the card. And, that was what I felt like with John Morrison. The guy had an injury, neck wasn't fully healed, also had ankle problems, which were unbeknownst to me. And he's doing this high-flying aerial, just blows my mind, and having these awesome matches. And, I gotta say it, I know I'm gonna be a dick. It does leave me angry that, it was 2 years since he won a championship, and, in WWE, he didn't leave not having at least one last good reign to his name. I know he competed against Cody Rhodes for the IC title, which would have been his 4th had he won it, and he competed against Dolph for the US title, which I really wanted because we had never been United States champion, and that would be one step closer to Grand Slam status. Didn't win that either.
John, it's like I said, dude. It's a matter of circumstances, including the one that I forgot to mention, the one with Melina. And that one is the tell-all of how WWE really perceived John Morrison, because reports are coming out that Vince McMahon didn't really see John Morrison as a top main eventer because he supposedly let Melina push him around. In other words, Melina was backstage. This is reports. I don't know if this is actually true. I doubt it. But let's just go off the assumption that it is true. Reportedly, Melina was sleeping around with men, Batista, Mike Knotts, other people. And, John Morrison was just letting her do it. And, Vince McMahon saw that as weakness. I'm like, he's not a man. Why is he letting this woman sleep around like a fucking whore like that shit? And, that's the kind of stuff that really, really ticks me off about
maybe. I'm sorry to cut you off. I just need to say this because I'm really getting tired of Vincent Kennedy McMahon. And maybe it's because I'm a John Morrison fan that I'm about to say this and pretty much alienate myself from the rest of the internet. But who in the hell is he when he wrote himself into storylines that saw him tonguing virtually every diva on the roster? I mean, that's one reason why your wife will never get into politics. She has no backbone, and she doesn't know how to stab people in backs. Because she allowed her husband to just get with everybody on television with a worldwide audience. Oh, marriage? What's that? So, Vinny, just because you like to down the Viagra pills doesn't mean that all of us like to as well.
Damn.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Did I strike a nerve? Well, at least I wasn't the first to do it. I mean, after all, how could we forget the XFL? Oops, I shouldn't have said that either. Damn it. God, Jesus.
How many times has he died, by the way? Never seen explosions.
Yeah, really. I mean, you once booked a match, which I'm sure was Alex's personal favorite, considering that you brought two of his favorite people together, Shawn Michaels and God versus Vince McMahon and Shane McMahon. I mean, that was just genius written all over it, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, he beat both of them. Bitch.
Because who would ever in their right mind go against the word of Vincent Kennedy McMahon? I mean, he knows everything. Katie Vick. So,
but John, you know what, man? At this point in time, you know how I see Vince? I just see Vince as another obstacle for John Morrison to come back and prove wrong. As a matter of fact, I expect him to come back. I honestly believe that when John Morrison returns, and he returns better than ever, he is going to turn a lot of heads, including one of Vincent Kennedy McMahon. And the reason I say that is because over the last year, I think Vince has finally started to realize, okay, the way I've been doing things, 2010, 2011, just showcasing Cena, just showcasing Randy Orton, and showcasing the main people over and over again, is not working for me. Which has, brought him to showcasing people like a CM Punk, a Mark Henry, a Wade Barrett, a Daniel Bryan, a Sin Cara, and, get a new influx of talent. A Dolph Ziggler, a Christian. You know what I'm saying? I think Vince is now starting to realize, hell, you know what? My ways wasn't working. And I think now, if John Morrison was to return to WWE and go to SmackDown, he might have a better chance and a better platform of really proving Vince McMahon wrong, because I think Vince, as of late, he has started to realize, okay, my way isn't working as much anymore. Fine, let's see what the fans want. And fans wanted Morrison. I think a lot of fans really got behind Morrison to do some things in WWE. It's just that, unfortunately, the injury and the circumstances, well, if the injury gets fixed, and with the circumstances changing, John, we might be seeing some good things happen for Morrison now.
Indeed we may. And you know what? In closing, because this has just been such a wonderful time. Again, I said that this wasn't rekindling intimacy with the past. I guess that was somewhat of a lie, but now let me tell you the truth. We said that this was looking towards an unknown future, and we did that. But in closing, I want to put an exclamation point on that unknown, that uncertainty. SummerSlam 2012. Los Angeles, California. The hometown of John Morrison. If it is later this year, I thought it was going to be January of 2013 because he had a stacked schedule of improv shows and indie shows. If he's going to cut that short, that's fine. SummerSlam. The Big Four. And there's one thing I want. There's only one thing I want for Christmas. Well, SummerSlam's in August, but say Christmas in July for the hell of it. August comes after, so maybe I can make a nice little late wish. It's not for my two front teeth. It's not for the Xbox 5000. It's for The Miz, more specifically The Miz in that ring, because I can't let it go. I can't let go that you surpassed him. You, the reality TV star, surpassing the guy who emulated and idolized Shawn Michaels. You, The guy who wanted to tell a sob story and wanted me to feel bad for you because you ate chicken over somebody's bag. Pity me, I had a struggle. Really? To steal your phrase, to actually give you some credit but don't expect a royalty check. Really? You eat chicken over somebody's bag, you get kicked out, you get forced to change in a janitor's closet, and you expect me to pity you? Because yes, clearly, that's the same kind of story of an Eddie Guerrero who overcame addiction, or a Rey Mysterio who got his wrestling license at the age of 16. Now, I don't know what Morrison's story is, but he said that Eminem was criticized. He said they would never make it. They told him he would never make it, that he was a fly-by-night. And in truth, I guess, because he's gone, they were partially right, and that burns my ass every day. But if he comes back, if I get that second chance to do time over again, the first thing I want to see done is what I've wanted done since the Dirt Sheet duo broke up. I want to see John Morrison versus The Miz at SummerSlam. And I'm going to make a special request of The Miz. I want you to bring your girlfriend Maurice to the event. I want you to make sure that she gets a front row ticket, or hell, even the skybox, because no matter where she is, I want her eyes locked on the middle of the ring as John Morrison tears you apart. And when you go home that night, you look in her eyes and she'll know that he will never be the same again. I am out for championships. I am out for those pay-per-view main events. You're damn right. Me and Preston have often joked, we want Ryan Morrison to feud over that world title. And Preston will tell you, if it came down to it, he'd rip my throat out. And I would rip out his. And it's not for a lack of love. No, it's a burning desire for what is ours. Specifically, that World Heavyweight Championship. So now I've said what I wanted to say about The Miz. Now let me talk about Sheamus. Talk about you. You know, my good friend Alex here asked the question, if you're a good babyface world champion. No. The correct answer is you're a joke. Because the fact is that you didn't deserve that World Heavyweight Championship then, and you don't deserve it now. That should be Daniel Bryan's World Championship. But putting Daniel Bryan aside for just a second, if you don't mind, Alex, Preston wanted to see fandom. He wanted to see it. He wanted to say, I want to know it's still alive. Tell me it's still alive. Be careful what you wish for. It's that monkey's paw, because now you're going to see it in full. You see, Sheamus has what is mine. People were saying, what is he talking about? That world title. It's not yours, Sheamus. It's not Daniel Bryan's. It's not Vince Russo's. It's not David Arquette's. It's mine. Because for 9 years, ever since the reign of Chris Benoit ended, I have watched joke after joke after joke take that championship and make it about as meaningful as the replica I could get on WWEshop.com, with Daniel Bryan being the exception. You can dodge those sweat bullets, Alex. The fact is, we're not with the reign of Daniel Bryan anymore. We're with the reign of a guy who, because he's big and he knows how to put his knees in a 90-degree angle and open up his mouth for Triple H, he gets a world title reign. It doesn't really work for me because you took what was mine. And I don't give a shit if you're a face, if you're a heel, if you're in between, if you got your thumb up your ass. Because in due time, if I do see my hero, the man who brought back my love for this business more than anyone else, return, you better pray, if you believe in a God, that it has mercy on your soul, because I sure as hell won't. You hold that world championship today, I will make sure you hold uncertainty tomorrow. And when you wake up in a hospital bed and you turn on the television set and you see him parading with that World Heavyweight Championship, you'll know that the coldest of realities has just passed you by, because this is it. If he does come back, and I promised all of Dalyxman subscribers, every supporter of the Horseman, every supporter of me, and every Jomo Sapien that is proud to be a Jomo Sapien, I will not rest. These eyes will never know sleep again until I take what is mine, that World Heavyweight Championship. Preston wants the WWE title. I don't blame him. It's the championship. It's the championship that when Roddy Piper looks back on his career, a tear in his eye, he says, what if? Something that Kurt Hennig never held, something that Jimmy Snuka never held, and that's fine. But for me, that world title, which Ray did hold twice, like a true champion, like Chris Benoit held and won at WrestleMania, that is what this is about for me. I want my vindication. I want my validation. Because I had some 24-year-old little shit in Randy Orton who didn't know what it meant to be in that spot at the time take that away from me. And now I have no gripe with Orton. His bill was paid. It's still the idea that that world title, which at a point meant so much, thanks to Daniel Bryan, and I'm in the kid's debt, because he eased my pain just a little bit, has now gone back to a mockery. Vince Russo and David Arquette are watching the SmackDown product together and laughing their asses off at you, Sheamus. At you. You're the punchline. But now we're going to tell a very different kind of story. The John Morrison story, because if I get what I want at SummerSlam, that's just the beginning. Because it starts with The Miz and it ends with a Celtic Warrior. So do me a favor. I'm going to ask, real nice, could you please keep that belt nice and warm until we come back? And then I promise you'll get to see it one last time before we take it, when we turn it around and shove it up your ass. That's all I have left to say.
I'm going to take the ball here, guys, and carry it where John left off, and I'm going to say it like this. You guys thought my fandom for Daniel Bryan was off the chain? Well, I came up here and I told you guys that he will make a believer out of you. When people said that Daniel Bryan would never even touch that world championship, I said he will make a believer out of you. When Daniel Bryan came up and he was going against Big Show and Mark Henry in a steel cage match at Royal Rumble, people told me he wasn't going to work out as world champion. I told you, he'll make a believer out of you. When he went to Elimination Chamber, everybody was saying he was going to drop that strap and wouldn't even go into WrestleMania as world champion. I told you he would make a believer out of you, and he did. Even though he lost that match at WrestleMania, he came out of that shit more over than Sheamus could ever even dream to be. And now I'm getting ready to tell you guys, I'm going to share that exact same feelings with John Morrison. Because John Morrison, peeps, is the new guy. Morrison, when he comes back and he gets in that ring, he starts showcasing what he can fucking do. You hear that music. This ain't no make-believe. Open your eyes and see. Morrison is going to prove all the naysayers wrong, including you, Vince. Everybody that said John Morrison was just a spot monkey. He couldn't be anybody. I made a video saying there is no excuse why any wrestler should not get over. John Morrison knows that. And he's going to do everything in his power to make sure that at the end of the day, that you know who John Morrison is. And I guarantee you, Daniel Bryan's already there. And he can only go above and beyond. Morrison, when he comes back, he will make a believer out of all of you. Because John Morrison loves wrestling. He has a passion for wrestling. This man is hungry. He wants to be the best. Something that a lot of these wrestlers don't have nowadays. When Undertaker, HBK, and Triple H said, you know what, I agree with them. This is the end of an era because wrestlers nowadays don't appreciate the sport of wrestling. And what's even sadder is fans don't do it either. But thank God of somebody like a John Morrison, of Daniel Bryan, of Rey Mysterio, of Dean Ambrose. These guys that respect the wrestling business. And they're going to do everything they can to keep this shit alive. John Morrison, I look forward to you coming back because I know that when you come back, you're going to wreck shop, you're going to turn heads, you're going to have people shelling money at you, 50, 60, $70 just to see you just go crazy. I've asked this question before. What does John Morrison have to do to get that world championship? Does he have to jump off a freaking airplane? Does he have to grow wings? Well, guess what, WWE? He's going to do all of that and then some. I expect John Morrison to come back. I expect him to go to SmackDown. And I expect them to take the heights that it's never been seen before. Because John Morrison has it.
That was beautifully said. And to any listener who wants to contribute their thoughts on John Morrison, good, bad, or indifferent, please feel free to do so. Comments, video responses. But most importantly, to any listener who says, there goes John again with the pie-in-the-sky dreams. When will he have had his fill? Riddle me this, riddle me that. How do you beat a man that has nothing to lose? He'll come back, and yeah, I'll have those pie-in-the-sky dreams, but if I don't get them, it's nothing new. You can't beat me this time around, but I would encourage all of you to join me, and maybe SummerSlam will be my day. If it's not, then it's just another day to follow. Regardless, I know this is not the end of John Morrison. It is only the beginning. I really hope to see all of you there. This was a privilege to do with Alex. Man, it's been a while since I felt like this. I mean, don't get me wrong, guys. I love the current product. Tenzai, Sandow, Ambrose coming in, Punk, Rhodes, but that pure, unadulterated fandom. In the immortal words of Hawk, oh, what a rush. Catch you guys around.